Hey everybody, welcome to Culinary Characters Unlocked. I'm David Page. On this episode, Food and Wine named him one of America's best new chefs for 2025. For the innovative take on Midwestern cooking, he's serving up at his Cleveland restaurant, Cordelia. Here's Vinnie Cimino. Chef, how are you? Thanks for joining me.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Let me jump right into the key point that's in everything I read about you and your food. What's the deal with fried saltines?
First off, can you imagine anything better than deep fried crackers?
No, I guess. But look, I lived in the Midwest. I lived in Chicago. I lived for a long time in Minneapolis. I've never seen a fried saltine. So where the hell's that come from?
So it comes from the South. I spent a lot of time in Alabama growing up as a kid. My grandfather lived in Alabama. My great-grandparents lived in Alabama. My mom was born in Alabama. So I spent a lot of time in the South, and the fried saltines come from there. But when we opened up the restaurant, we were making our own version of crackers, and it was just a very tedious thing. And then eventually, let's just deep fry saltine crackers.
Okay, so the dish that all the writers are pointing to as an example of your love for Midwestern cooking actually comes from Alabama.
In a roundabout way, yeah. But I mean, what the Midwest is a melting pot of culture and cuisine. It's something I grew up with in the Midwest.
Which people think of, look, I lived in Minnesota, I think a hot dish, but people think of Midwestern cuisine as kind of bland, when in fact it's heavily, and I'm not sure I like this word for cuisines, but it's heavily ethnic, correct?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think what the Midwest has is this melting pot of cultures all around. I mean, think about just you as a person, me as a person. I mean, I have, Italian and German and Polish and Irish, you name it. I'm a mutt of a human.
And industrial areas like Cleveland, for example, had large immigrant populations working in the factories and the plants.
Yeah.
We're going to get into specific dishes in a bit. But first, Food and Wine has named you one of its best new chefs for 2025. That's quite an honor.
Yes, sir.
But new, quote unquote, you've been doing this for quite a while, have you not?
I've been around the block a couple times.
You come from a family steeped in food, including, as I understand it, there was a deli in the family, right?
Yes, sir. My grandmother owned a deli technically it was a deli/bar when I was growing up from 1991 to 2001.
And where was that?
It was in Kent, Ohio.
And what kind of food did they serve?
Modern diner food, sandwiches, soups, specials of the day. It was just very hearty, home-cooked things.
And were you in the kitchen there? Were you one of those kids who helped out?
As far as helping out what goes, like taking out the trash, washing dishes, clearing off tables, stuff like that. Not in the actual cooking part, but I love to eat, so they worked out good.
When did cooking become, hey, this could be a way to earn a living?
So I found myself working in restaurants in college, mostly in the front of the house.
Where?
In Charleston, South Carolina. Serving in restaurants. It was an easy, fun summer job kind of thing. And then as I moved back home to Akron from Charleston, I was kind of continuing to do the same. And then one day I was working at a restaurant in Peninsula, Ohio called Russo's. It's like this Italian Creole cuisine. And they needed help in the kitchen. Their A&M dishwasher was gone. A prep cook was gone. They needed some help on the cold salad line. And they knew that I cooked for fun at home and I enjoyed eating and asking questions. And they just asked if I would kind of help out and moonlight. I said, great. They matched my server wage, which was at the time was like $13 an hour, which was pretty incredible for, I think this was in 2005, maybe. And then from there, what I really fell in love with was the camaraderie of the kitchen. It was a band of, miscreants and misfits all banding together to create like beautiful things. I enjoyed working with my hands, keeping busy. And that just kind of led me down thinking about, I'd already been reading books on food, cooking at home for fun. And then that just kind of created this rabbit hole of, it's a fun thing that you're never going to learn everything about food and hospitality. So I enjoy that aspect. I enjoy that there's always something new. Somebody's doing something new. It's a better way to do it. Just kind of keep learning.
You moved on to a place called Ken Stewart's Grill. You worked your way up to sous chef there.
Yes, sir.
I read that that's where you say you really learned how to cook. Tell me that story.
From Russo's, I went to work at a country club, from a line cook to a sous chef in a very short period of time. But I didn't know what I didn't know. There was nobody there to teach me. I was just trying to figure things out.
And you'd had no culinary education?
Zero culinary education. But I was reading things, learning about food on my own, trying to find my way. And at that point, I realized realized this is something that I really wanted to do. So I needed to go to a place that I could learn in, essentially. So the best restaurant around my house in my area was Ken Stewart's Grill. It was this old school steakhouse, busy all the time, great reputation. So I applied to be a salad cook, hired in at, I want to say $8.50 an hour, and then worked my way up from there. Working in that kitchen, I learned how to work the Garmo station. I learned how to saute, how to grill, how to prep, how to do a lot of volume and cooking. And I learned how to be a really good cook. After that, we opened up a restaurant in Cleveland, same group, Ken Stewart's. I was the executive sous chef there, learning more about food, about ingredients, worked there for about a year and a half. And then I kind of like hit a limit, a ceiling again. And then I knew that I didn't know enough. I wanted to put myself in a position to continue to learn, and I applied and got a position as the 4th sous chef at the Greenhouse Tavern.
Which was the place in Cleveland at the time, correct?
Yes, the place. And I applied a couple times over the course of probably a year and a half, and finally I got a job. Yeah, I think I did a 16-hour stage, and then they offered me a $22,000 a year pay cut from what I was making before, and I said, okay, let's do it.
And what did being there do for you and your cooking and your ability to run a restaurant?
So I already knew how to cook. What I really wanted to get out of my experience there was about ingredients and how to cook better food, how to cook ingredient forward food. I'd already started building partnerships with farmers, working with local ingredients. Greenhouse was one of the best around for doing that, the best that they could. It just felt like a natural fit for me. I wanted to surround myself with more people who knew more about food than I did.
The chef there, Jonathan Sawyer, would eventually win a James Beard Award. This was quite a cook.
Yeah, he won a James Beard Award, I think, about a year after I started.
And we'll be right back. You're soaking up knowledge.
Yes.
Were you learning anything about running a restaurant? Because let me cut to the chase. This all fell apart eventually, as so many restaurants do, in recriminations and anger and the door being closed.
Let me put it this way. When I left Team Sawyer, I left with no ill will. Nothing bad happened to me. Jonathan and I left very amicably. When I left, I was the corporate chef. They were really pulling back down to one restaurant.
He had 3 at the time at one point?
Yes. And there was no room for a corporate chef. So I kind of got, laid off in that. I did go back to work for Jonathan in a consulting role later on, but it was a very temporary thing. So back to the original question, I spent a lot of my time there learning what not to do. And I think that was just as invaluable of a lesson as learning what to do. There were definitely a lot of positive things I took from that experience, but it wasn't the most well-run restaurant group. They talked a lot about hospitality and treating people with respect, and not a lot of that happened. So I took a lot of that to heart. And then when we set out to open up a restaurant, we knew that we wanted to take care of people the best that we could.
Okay, you left there, went through a bunch of jobs and attempts, and finally you ended up reunited with somebody from that restaurant group, right?
From that restaurant, yeah. So leading up to all of it, I tell everybody, like always the bridesmaid, never the bride. I'd opened up a lot of restaurants for a lot of different folks. Really, during the pandemic, I was just smashing burgers on parking lots to live. And we started a nonprofit organization called Cleveland Family Meal, where we provide provisions for those in need, whether it was food or toilet paper or diapers, anything really.
For hospitality workers?
For hospitality workers. And that's when I really got my passion for people. And hospitality was in those moments, like understanding that the restaurants are more than just food. It's really about the people. Without the people, there's no food. So my partner now, Andrew Watts, reached out to me and asked if I'd be interested in sitting down and talking to him. Little did I know, he had put out an ad on Indeed about a year prior, looking to open up a restaurant and talking about aiming for James Beard Awards and just like saying things that people don't normally say in Cleveland.
Why don't people say that in Cleveland?
I don't think Clevelanders give themselves enough credits. I think that Cleveland, they always refer to themselves as like a 6th city, a secondary thing. I don't look at it that way. I think that we have just as great a food scene as anybody else. We can hold our own.
But there's kind of an inferiority complex generally.
I think so, and I think it's unfortunate, but yeah.
Okay, so back to the story. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine. So we sat and we talked about the status of the industry and what we wanted to see and, what we wanted to do. And all of it was very aligned. And it was all truly about hospitality and taking care of people. And not just the guests that walked through our front door, but the staff that chose to work with us day in and day out. We wanted to take care of people. We wanted to provide benefits and 401ks and build a culture and like put our mark on hospitality.
Can you do that in the current economic environment? I mean, restaurants are getting kicked in the ass.
You can if you have good people, and we have great people. We're very fortunate. Our restaurant's been open up a little over 3 years. It's been getting busier every year. Our staff has been growing. The amount of benefits that we've been able to provide has been growing. It's been truly a incredible experience.
Okay, the name of the place is Cordelia.
Yes, sir.
It's in Cleveland. You still live in Akron?
I still live in Akron.
I read that on your arm somewhere you have a tattoo of the Goodyear blimp.
Yes.
Which is housed in Akron. So you kind of strike me as Drew Carey, kind of standing up for your hometown.
Yeah, I think being from Northeast Ohio, whether you're Akron or Cleveland, I think LeBron, Drew Carey, all of them show like we have a great pride in where we come from.
So you and your partner are going to open this restaurant. Easy? Hard? Could you get investors? I mean, what was the process like?
It was difficult. We had some good people in our corner who were giving us good advice, giving us good backing. We had a great opening team, people that we could rely on to ask questions and talk to figure out what we should do. Now, granted, it took us a year from when we signed on to do it to when we opened. A lot of things happen when you're opening up a restaurant you can't foresee. Equipment doesn't work as it's supposed to. The HVAC doesn't cool down the restaurant. We took out a floor and discovered this amazing terrazzo underneath. We're like, all right, well, we can't cover that back up again. So how do we preserve that? There was a lot of things that, we didn't anticipate seeing or doing that we ended up doing. And all for the best reasons, all the right reasons.
Like what? Tell me some more. What did you not anticipate doing that you did?
We didn't anticipate having to redo all the HVAC in the entire restaurant. Like I said, when we were demoing out a floor, we uncovered this vintage terrazzo from the 1930s, and it was just so gorgeous that we were like, all right, now we have to figure out who do we call to get this refinished and fixed and make sure that that's a focal point. When we were taking down some drywall around some of the pillars in the restaurant, we uncovered like this beautiful cement work. Like, all right, well, now we got to figure out how to seal that up because we don't want to cover that back up again. Just so many little things around the lines that like opened up that we were like, all right, what are we going to do with it?
That's all physical.
Yeah.
What about developing the menu? Food and Wine says your menu pays unabashed homage to the culture, cuisine, and communities of the Midwest. Is that the vision you went in with?
Yes, that's the vision. Andrew and I sat around and we talked about how do we create the most quintessential Midwestern restaurant.
Acknowledging that the Midwest is a bunch of different cultures and communities.
And that's where that was the jumping off point. Andrew and I came from two completely different backgrounds, different heritages, everything. So the Midwest didn't just mean one thing to each of us, but what it did mean was a gathering of communities, a center around our matriarchs and patriarchs, whether they're our grandparents in some way, shape, or form. So then we coined this idea of like modern grandma. That's where we learned a lot of our hospitality was from our grandparents, big gatherings around food and family. So we just kind of leaned into that realm.
I've read that you call the atmosphere Midwest nice.
Midwest nice is being grateful and showing gratitude and opening up a door. And the amount of times that you acknowledge a random person on a street or, say hello, good morning, you're getting out the elevator, have a good night. Just little things, just common decencies, I guess.
So you're going to run a nice place, suffuse it with Midwestern feel. I mean, you turned a bowling lane into a bar or something?
Yes. So our pass in our kitchen is a bowling lane, and we wanted it to emulate like a large dining room table. We were looking for a large piece of wood and just happened to be like, oh, we found a whole bunch of bowling lane. We sand it down. That raw wood makes it look like a dining room table.
You've got a big neon sign out front. It's more than the Midwest. The sense I get, and I've not been to your restaurant, It's not just Midwestern, it's retro.
It's homage to a heritage. So I don't know if I would call it retro in a way. I mean, we wanted it to feel like it had always been there. And it really does. People come in, we know their names. We have a ton of repeat guests. Like it feels warm. It feels like grandma's house.
No, I'm visualizing a number of places I used to go in Minneapolis when you talk about this. So I get the sense of it. And it's very nice. Back in a moment. Let's talk about the food.
Okay. In
looking at your menu and looking at what's been written, it feels like a lot of it is almost interactive. Tell me about the burger box. Is this a starter? What is the burger box?
So the entire menu is designed to be communal. We wanted you to be able to sit down, pass plates, tell stories. The burger is an amalgamation of something that we were doing during the pandemic. In the pandemic, I was buying buns from Aldi, meat from the Acme grocery store, making pickles and sauce in my kitchen, in my home kitchen. We were doing a version of this burger in parking lots. When we got a restaurant and more equipment, we were like, all right, let's make this burger how we always wanted to see it. We're downtown in the entertainment district. We know that we have to have some things that are for everybody, all walks of life come in. We had to have a burger. But I didn't want it to just be a burger that you would just eat on your own. We're building a communal menu. This burger was inspired by small little hamburger joints that were around Akron at the time, Hamburger Station, White Castle, a little more globally. This idea of sharing burgers and not just eating it one thing by yourself. So we developed this burger box, which is 4 individually rolled buns that proof into one.
So they're connected when you get them.
They're connected when you get them. And the goal in the beginning was to be this pull-apart burger, but we were doing a cheese skirt on it, which gets really crispy, which wasn't quite pulling apart right. And I was like, all right, not everybody's going to want to touch everybody else's food. So now we serve it with a steak knife and all the buns are individually picked. You can see it's basically 4 sliders that you're meant to cut and share out.
The cheese skirt is what kind of cheese?
Smoked cheddar and white American.
You make your own pickles?
We make our own pickles. My grandmother, again, used to make Kool-Aid pickles by just buying jars of pickles from the store and then spiking them with packets of Kool-Aid, all different colors, flavors.
What?
Yeah, it's old school.
This was an Alabama thing or an Ohio thing?
Well, it was an Alabama thing, but she was living in Ohio.
Did you end up with a pickle that tasted strawberry or cherry or?
No, not really. They were just sweeter. There was not a lot of delineation from the different flavors. There's so much acid and pickle brine. They were just colored pickles.
You make your own kind of Kool-Aid though, right?
Yeah. So what I was doing during the pandemic was same thing my grandmother was doing, buying spicy or sweet and sour pickles and then spiking with Kool-Aid. As this burger, grew up and we knew we wanted to do different things, we partnered with local farms, got Kirby cucumbers in.
What's a Kirby cucumber?
Just a pickling cucumber.
Grown locally or?
Ours are grown locally, but they grow everywhere. But it's just a smaller cucumber is made for pickling. So we bring those in and then we make our own garlic, onion, bread and butter pickles. And then we spike them with our homemade Kool-Aid.
How do you make homemade Kool-Aid crystals? What's in there?
We just kind of reverse engineered it. You'd be surprised how expensive it is to buy lemon lime Kool-Aid in bulk. It's just not readily available anymore either. So we just kind of reverse engineered. All right. So we have ascorbic acid, citric acid, sugar, the green dye number 5 kind of thing.
Are the fans going wild? Is this a popular dish?
It's become a very popular item on the menu. Most burgers are the most popular item on the menu. Ours is definitely the number 1 seller day in and day out.
Well, sticking with the burger thing, you have something called Lamb Burger Helper? I say lamb, not ham.
Yes.
What's that?
Again, sticking with our very Midwestern theme and celebrating our heritage. A big thing growing up that we would eat would be hamburger helper. Working parents just trying to make honest meals quick. So we started playing with different ideas of this way. What were things that we grew up eating and how do we make them elevated and different and fun? And then, we were getting some really great ground lamb from a local butcher processor in Frederickstown. And then it's just how everything does, just starts with people talking about things. And we said the term Lamb Burger Helper, and then that was it.
So what is it? What do I get when I order it?
Well, right now you don't get it at all because it's off the menu. The menu is very seasonal. We change it up very often. But what it was is this Vadavon curried lamb ragu over house-made noodles.
Put that back. When does that go back on the menu?
We'll see.
Okay, keep them wanting more.
Yeah.
One more burger-related question. Galley Boy tartare?
Yes.
Which is?
Again, a homage to food that we grew up eating. I'm from Akron, still live in Akron. We have this 92-year-old burger chain drive-in joint called Swensons. Their number 1 burger is it's called the Galley Boy.
And it is?
Double cheeseburger, tartare sauce, which they just refer to as white sauce.
With relish in it?
Yep.
Okay.
And then barbecue sauce, onions, pickles, and then it's topped with an olive stuffed with a pimento pepper on the outside, with a pick in it.
And this is a fast food. You drive through and get this?
And so instead of a drive-through, it's a drive-up.
Gotcha.
Turn on your lights, they run out to the car. Faster food.
And how do you do it?
We took all those same thoughts of the flavors of the Galley Boy and turned it into a tartare dish. We emulsify the beef with a sweet olive relish mayo. top it with Castelvetrano olives, like a smoked pimento romesco sauce, and then cheddar frico, which is like crispy cheese chips.
All of which you're making.
Of course. And then local certified Angus beef.
And the buns?
Nothing when it comes to that. That is like a plated dish.
Do you have a lot of fans of raw meat?
Actually, yeah. Yeah, we do. Tartare is a French term, but the act of eating raw beef is a very Midwestern thing. My German grandfather, who was from South Dakota, would eat what he called tiger meat sandwiches, which was just raw beef and raw onions and yellow mustard on bread.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I must confess, I've never heard of that.
Yep.
I'll be darned. Staying with local, unique regional isms, you have a salad dressing that's regionally specific?
White French.
What is white French?
Oh, it's the only salad dressing that we have in-house. The story goes, it's a very like Akron staple dressing. Came from Northeast Ohio. Stouffer's was based in Cleveland. They used to do, what was this like, they called it like an egg dressing. It was like a cooked boiled egg dressing. And somewhere along the line, that amalgamated to white French, which is mayonnaise based, and then emulsified with sweet onions, sugar, and season. We take ours a little bit further. We add in, obviously, the sweet onions, local organic garlic, and a little bit of stadium mustard.
Which is a Cleveland brand of mustard.
Yes.
Which I've never had. What does it taste like? What's it like?
A mildly spicy brown mustard.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's a great hot dog mustard.
I've heard that. Okay, so you talk about how seasonal you are. What are the big heavy meal dishes you have on right now? We're recording this in mid-October. I mean, I can look at your menu. You have corned lamb shanks. Are those on?
Yep.
You got pork belly. Is it on?
Yep. We think of the seasons in a very celebratory way. We understand that Northeast Ohio, we have fleeting seasons when it comes to produce, especially. So in the springtime, we're eating a hell of a ton of peas and asparagus, and so much so that by the end of pea season, we're like, no more peas, please, kind of thing.
Well, you do English pea toast?
Yes. Raw peas emulsified with some really good olive oil, some stinky cheese, a lot of black pepper, salt. Like, we just want to taste the peas themselves.
What do you serve that on?
It goes over top of some house-made like whipped ricotta, a bunch of fresh mint, basil, some cured egg yolk on top of toasted sourdough.
Sounds nice. Let's talk about some of the heavy dishes.
Yeah.
I've never seen corned lamb.
Well, have you ever heard of corned beef?
Yeah, of course. Obviously, I understand where you're coming from, but why corned lamb? Is that a traditional dish?
No, but corned beef is. It's how do we play off some of these traditional dishes and doing them in an untraditional manner. You know, we partnered with a local farm who was bringing in really good lamb. So we were getting the shanks in. Before we put the corned lamb on the menu, we were doing corned beef tongue in the style of like a ballpark style hot dog.
Wait, explain that. Hold on. How do you do corned beef tongue like a hot dog?
We called it, at the corner of Carnegie on Ontario, which is where the Guardians play. But it was thought of like a hot dog, pickled mustard seed on top of toasted bread, relish, things that we would put on a hot dog, pickled onions. And it was just like our version of a hot dog, but with the fun terms of hot dogs are all just like lips and assholes,
Right. Okay, so throw in some tongues.
Back to corned lamb.
Okay, corned lamb.
In that same kind of breath. Like it's our homage to Cleveland style corned beef. Corned beef, when you eat it, you're typically eating it on rye toast slathered in yellow mustard. We make a vegetal fermented mustard. Basically, it takes about 45 days to lacto ferment all the veggies and the mustard together. And then we fold in some spicy yellow mustard, some whole grain mustard, and then turn that all into a sauce that we mount with butter. And we make this fermented mustard beurre blanc.
Ooh, that sounds terrific. Okay, so pork belly, is that local?
Pork belly is local as well. Coming from the same guy in Frederickstown. All of our pork belly is coming from Heffelfinger's Meats. So we bring in whole side bellies of pork bone in. And then we butcher them in-house. We brine them. We braise them. We let them sit out in the cooler to kind of dry out a little bit. And then to order, we deep fry them. So they get crispy on the outside, nice and gooey on the middle. And then we take all that braising liquid, strain it out. Inside of that braising liquid's a bunch of sarsaparilla, red wine, garlic, herbs, lemons. Strain that out.
Can you even get sarsaparilla anywhere anymore? For anyone who doesn't know, it's sort of root beerish, I guess.
Yeah, pretty easy. Reduce all that down. And then once it gets to a good thickness, we mount it with a shit ton of butter. And we just call that sarsaparilla beurre blanc.
Wow.
Butter's your friend.
Okay, so where do you come up with that? I mean, do you just wake up in the middle of the night and say, here's what I should do?
Sometimes.
I mean, it's not your standard anything.
No, honestly, it's a lot of trial and error. There's no dish that I don't think we've ever done. It's been like one single person's thought from start to finish. Nobody comes in like, I got this idea. It's going to be perfect. Here's what we're going to do. I have this idea, and it's somebody says, well, what if it's like, oh, I love that. What if we do it this? And somebody says, well, what if we pair it with this? And then next thing you know, we have this like incredible thing that like has 4 or 5 different people have put their fingerprints on, and it's way better than anything we could have come up with singularity.
What are you working on now that hasn't made it to the menu yet?
Well, we're in the process of opening up a new restaurant.
Wait. The business has gone to hell. Restaurants are closing left and right. And you're thinking, oh, what the heck? Let's do another one.
Yeah, I mean, people love to eat. I want to feed more people.
So what's the plan?
The plan is that the new restaurant's much smaller, more intimate, all centered around a live fire hearth.
Which is kind of the thing these days.
Well, the thing these days are people getting back to their roots. We got back to our roots in Midwestern cooking. We're celebrating the flavors that we grew up with in a modern light. I mean, what's more your roots of cooking than live fire?
So what are you going to do there?
We haven't gone public with all of it yet, so I'll skirt around a little bit. Cordelia, we refer to this as this modern grandma type of cuisine. Familiar flavors reimagined, but there are grandparents. It's our food that we grew up with, just done differently. My thought with this new space is like, well, what if we just kind of amplify that? And what if it's like our grandparents, and we get into this like almost ancestral European style of cuisine and cookery?
Tell me a little more.
Our goal is to tell more pertinent stories of our farmers through the lens of live fire.
Let me touch on a subject that I hope this isn't painful or unpleasant, but you've made it clear you want a James Beard Award. You've come close. This year you were a finalist.
Last year I was a finalist. This year I was a semifinalist.
Right. Are you getting pissed?
No. I think if you're doing things for awards and accolades, you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
But it would be nice. Only a couple of chefs in Ohio have ever gotten the award.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm not going to turn it down, but in the same light that the more exposure you get, the more butts and seats you get. The more folks come and support our restaurant, the more benefits we can provide, the more things we can do with our team, the more opportunities we can give. That's our goal is how do we take care of people better?
Gordon Ramsay came to Cordelia?
He did. That was fun.
Did he scream and yell?
He was a sweetheart, actually. I wasn't sure what to expect, but he was incredibly nice and just so grateful and raved on the food and said that, it was one of the best meals he's had in recent memory. And then months later, I was traveling and somebody told me that he was saying the same thing, like not just to my face. So that was fun.
What do you think about the state of the restaurant world these days?
I'm hopeful.
In the face of many challenges.
Of course, rising costs, tariffs don't help. 90% of restaurants are small businesses, people just trying to get by, trying to figure out how to do it a little bit better every day. I'm hopeful that more folks are looking inward and figuring out how do we take care of our people better? Because ultimately our people are in charge of taking care of our guests. So if we start by taking care of our folks, we know that they're going to take care of our guests will come back, and we'll be able to create this symbiotic cycle of hospitality.
Not to get overtly political, but I guess I will. The James Beard Awards this year focused heavily in the speeches on immigration and the role that immigrants play in the restaurant community. Do you have any concerns there?
I think that the state of the world right now is scary. When we had heard rumors that ICE was in Cleveland, we sat down with our Hispanic folks and said, listen, we will never let anybody take you out of our restaurant. We will never let anybody come in who isn't invited in that way. We're going to go out of our way to make sure that we take care of our folks.
How about the customers in terms of what they're looking for? You've hit on something they seem to like. Do you think Americans are getting more adventurous in eating? What are they looking for? What do people want in a restaurant?
I think they're looking for experience first and foremost. They're looking to feel welcome in an environment. And I think that's what we do so well. Our culture is one of inclusiveness and welcoming and warm, and we're inviting you into our proverbial home, and our team just exudes that so well. They make people feel welcome. Again, a restaurant, you get all walks of life, but to be able to make every single person feel like they're at home is something special.
Sounds like you're doing a hell of a job.
I think so. I really do. For a while, there's a lot of imposter syndrome and like, do we deserve this? Are we doing enough? And, now I've been settling into the fact that, yeah, we do something incredible and special. But what really makes it is our team every single day. And we are just so incredibly fortunate to surround ourselves with so many wonderful individuals who not only allow us to do what we do, but believe in what we do so much that they make it their own culture too.
That sounds wonderful. Keep kicking ass, chef.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. It's been a delight to meet you.
Thank you. You too.
I hope to get out your way one day and have a meal.
Please do.
Vinnie Cimino on Culinary Characters Unlocked. I'm David Page, and I'll see you next time.